Hello, artists. Today we are going to be doing the Renoir umbrella project, but instead of using paint, we are going to be using markers and colored pencils. So if you don't have paint at home, paint will be preferable to do this project because it works a lot better for mixing your tints and your shades, which we're going to be learning about. But we can do this with some things that you might have at home, which is markers and colored pencils. So I have laid out my materials for my project. Before you begin any project, you want to make sure to get your materials, all your materials together before you start, so you're not stopping in the middle and trying to find something. So here I have my pencil that we're going to be using to draw on our umbrella. I have my Sharpie that we can use to outline that. And I have my painting supplies, which we will be using a blue marker. So our picture is just going to be all blue. So we're just going to be only using blues, blacks, and whites. So I just have one blue marker. If you have different colored blues, you can use that. That would be perfect. But I just have this one blue from my box of markers. So I'm going to be using that. And then I have 3 colored pencils. You will need 3 colored pencils for this. You will need a blue, and you will need a white and a black. So if you don't have a white and a black, go out and try to find a set that does have a white and a black included in your set, because we're going to be making darker and lighter, or shades and tints of our different blue. And that is what our lesson is today. So you will need your blue, just as this is just, if you do have many different types of blue, just regular, this is a royal blue, which is right in the middle. We'll be using those later. I also have my paintbrush. We're going to be kind of faking our watercolors with our markers. So we have my paintbrush, my paper towels, and my cup full of water here. All right, let's begin. First thing we need to do is, I'm going to move over stuff on my space, is draw our umbrella. So in order to draw our umbrella is going to be the main focus of our painting. So we want to make our umbrella be really large. So I'm going to start right about in the middle here, and I'm going to draw a big upside down U, or like a big rainbow. Just like that. I want to take up most of the page. I want to still leave some extra parts. Actually, I'm going to flip this over. You want to maybe have it a little bit smaller. So to make our umbrella, we're going to start right about in the middle. We're going to do like a big U, upside down U. Just like that. And we do want to leave some background space, but mostly have our umbrella take up most of the space. And this is just the top part of our umbrella. Now, at the very top of our umbrella, first we want to make, then we're going to make some hills in between. These are the different parts, when you open your umbrella, you get those different sections of the umbrella. So we're going to draw those. So we're going to draw about 4 or 5 different hills going in between. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one's going to be kind of small, 5. It doesn't have to be perfect if your hills are not all the same size. I'm going to try to get them close, but that's all right if we don't. Next thing we want to do is we want to add a hat to our umbrella. So you'll notice that umbrellas have the little top part to it. This is, I call a hat, just a flattened oval. And you're going to do this right at the top, right in the middle. And then we're going to use that to draw our lines in between our umbrella. So this will be the different sections of the umbrella. So we want to go from the bottom of each part of our hills and go up to our top. But we don't want to draw a straight line. We want to draw a curved line that kind of follows the same curve. So I'm going to go from the bottom part of my hill here. I'm going to draw up. And I'm going to draw out a curved line and then curve into that, into the hat, like that. So this one's going to be kind of more straight up and down because it's going right into the hat. Now these ones are going to be curved back the other way. So instead of curving it this way, I'm going to curve it the other way into the hat. So I'm going to go straight up from the bottom of the hill again, straight up. And as you get closer to the top, I'm going to curve it into that hat, just like that. I have one more right here. I'm going to curve that into my hat, just like that. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. 5 different sections of my umbrella. So is my umbrella missing? Yes, my umbrella is missing a handle. So we can draw the handle. This is going to be one of those old school umbrellas, kind of like you would see about the time when Renoir was alive. So it's going to look kind of like a J. So we're going to start kind of in the center, go down, and then when we get down to the bottom, we're going to curve it like a J, just like that. Now we're going to draw another line right next to that. I'm going to make it thick enough that we can see that it does a handle, but not too large. Just follow that same shape down, up, and back around. And then we're just going to make another upside down U shape to connect them. All right, our umbrella is complete. Now we just need to outline it with our Sharpie. So we're using the Sharpie so that when we use our water, it doesn't get washed out. And also pencil kind of muddies up markers and colored pencils. So I'm just going to go and I'm going to trace all those outlines that I drew in pencil with my Sharpie. So for this project, you could pretty much use any material that you want. Markers are a little bit difficult because they don't mix too well, but colored pencils work. Crayons, crayons can actually mix pretty well with white and black. If you have oil pastels would work really well for this, and of course paint. But we're watching this one because we don't have the paint for the painting part of this Renoir umbrella. So I'm just outlining each part of my umbrella. And I want to stay as close as I can to the pencil marks because I want to cover up that pencil. I do have some pencil marks that I can still see. I'm just going to go and I'm going to erase those. All right. So we have an umbrella and we have it outlined. Our next step is we need to paint in the background. So if we had paints, we would use our watercolor paints and we would mix our watercolors, blues and whites and blacks. But we're going to do a watercolor effect with our marker. I only had this one solid blue marker, which is okay. If you have different types of, or different colors of blue, you can use those too, and you can mix them together. So I'm just going to hold my marker, instead of holding up and down like this and making lines, skinny lines, I'm going to hold it up to the side. And I'm going to paint or color with my marker just very large strokes at the very top. I'm going to pick just different areas to do. I'm going to start with the top, and now I'm going to put the cap on my marker, and I'm going to go immediately in with my paintbrush. I'm going to take my paintbrush and I'm going to get some water on it. And I want to do this pretty quickly before my marker starts to dry. And I'm just going to take that water, just like a watercolor, and I'm going to paint over top of it. And you can see that marker kind of spreads out. If you've been in my Zoom classes, we've used this technique of painting this watercolor effect. And you're just going to go over. You also notice that I've put a piece of cardboard down underneath my sheet of paper. And I'm using a thicker paper. This is a watercolor paper, so it'll stand up to the water. So if you do have a thicker paper, you want to use that because we are going to be using a lot of water. And you're just going to keep, once your paintbrush runs out, you can go back and grab some more water. I'm just going around and I'm spreading out. And now the way that we can make different shades and tints of the blue, even though we only have one, is just by leaving some areas where the solid marker is and then just painting on some lighter areas where we're almost out of water. And see, now I'm pretty much out. I don't want to add too much water. So you can see we have different shades and tints. So what is a shade and a tint exactly when I keep saying shades and tints? What do I mean by that? So a shade and a tint are just different, not hues, but different like darkness or lightness of our color. So if we have our solid blue here, we would call that our solid blue. Now lighter is going to be our tint. So sometimes I do get a question about, well, like if I have a tint on a car, that's darker, right? Well, that is true. But when we're talking about art, a tint is a lighter version of that color, while a shade is the darker version of that color. And we'll see this a little bit more when we do the inside of our umbrella. We can make a lot different shades and tints. But for this, you can see like this. So this would be our solid color. This would be the darkest, so that'd be our darkest shade. And the way that I think about it is if I'm standing in the shade, it's dark in the shade. So I think the shade is dark. So that's how I remember that shade is darker and tint is lighter. And so you're just going to fill up your entire background. And again, that's why I said that I have this cardboard underneath. That way I can go all the way up to the edge and paint off the edge. And I'm leaving some areas lighter and some areas darker. And you can see I'm just scribbling on there. I don't have to fill it all in because when I get that water, the water's going to fill it in for me. But I want to make sure that I don't wait too long to put the water on, because once that marker dries totally, it doesn't have that same effect where you're able to pick it up with the water and move it around. So just be careful going around my umbrella. If you get a little bit inside, that's all right. Don't worry about it. We always make some sort of mistakes there. And if you get too much water, you'll notice that it'll start to creep around on your page. So we don't want to have too much water. We just want to keep pushing it around our paper. There we go. Looks good. Now make sure to clean off your brush when you're done, because otherwise that blue will stay with that brush. And you'll have a blue brush forever. We don't want to ruin our brushes. The way that we can check is we're going to push down in the water, wipe some of it off. Be careful. And then we can check on our paper towel. When you see our paper towel is just painting clear, that means our paintbrush is clean. All right, at this point, you might want to wait and let this dry completely before we move on to the next step. But I am going to go ahead. So like I said, what we're talking about is different tints and shades. So I have my solid blue colored pencil here. I'm going to move this out of the way. We don't need that anymore. And I have a white and I have a black colored pencil. So what we're going to do is we're going to make our center one the lightest. So we're going to start out coloring white. And it's going to look like I'm just not doing anything, right? And when you color in yours, you'll kind of be the same. So you're coloring white colored pencil on top of a white paper. So it kind of looks like you're not really coloring that much. But we will see that when we go over that it's going to make our blue a lot lighter. So I'm going to color that center one in, or the centermost one that you have, in completely white. And we'll just leave that for now. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our black. So our black is, we're going to make this go from lightest to darkest, or from our lightest tint to our darkest shade. So I'm going to take my black and I'm going to do black on the outside parts of this. Now I don't want to color it in black all the way, because if we had black all the way and when we do the blue over, you wouldn't be able to see it at all. It would just be black. So we're going to do this really light, a really light amount of black colored pencil on top of here. And again, I'm holding the pencil kind of sideways when I'm not going up and down and drawing a harsh line. I'm going sideways and using the side of the pencil. So you might want to sharpen your pencil so you have a nice amount of area to color. So that you can kind of see it in there. You see how much black. You don't need too much black, and you kind of see the white is in there. And I'm going to do the other side over here. So this side I'm going to go a little bit heavier, so this side can have a little darker shade of that blue. And your goal is going to try to make as many shades and tints as you can inside of your umbrella. So depending on how many different sections you have, will be how much shades and tints. On this side, I'm going to add just a little bit of white over here. Not too much. All right, and now we're going to see the magic of coloring with our solid blue over top of these. So I'm going to color at the center, and I'm going to go over with my blue. Now I'm not going to do it too heavy again. And you notice this is a lot lighter, and you'll be able to see this a lot more when I get onto my next part where I don't have any white or black underneath. So I'm just going to fill in this section all the way. All right, so our next section is going to be right here. This is going to be our solid blue. So you can see that blue without any white at all underneath it is definitely a lot darker. And this is just our pure blue color. And you can see how much darker that is, our pure blue, than where we put the white down first. Make sure I fill this in all the way. All right. Now we're going to go over to our darkest shade over here where we put the black down. And you can see when we go over it with our blue, the blue and the black mix together, and it makes a really dark shade of blue. And this is all just making different shades and tints of blue with just 3 different colored pencils. Now, if you were using paint, you would get the same effect. You would use white paint and black paint with your blue paint, and it will look the same. So there you go. You can see our regular blue, our tint or lighter blue, and our darker or our shade of blue. So we just have a couple more parts to fill in. This one, you remember I put a little bit of light under, so it's going to look a little bit lighter than our one over here, but a little bit darker than that one, because this one I put a lot of light underneath. And one more section over here. And again, this is going to be a shade because it's got the black underneath it. All right, you might also want to have a pencil sharpener handy when you're doing this because your pencils might run out. Like mine is there. So there we go. Now you just need to complete your artwork. I'm just going to color in my handle here. Now you can be creative and add some different things to this if you want to add some raindrops maybe, but we want to make sure that we keep this with the blues. We want to make this a very blue painting. I'm going to add some black up at the top. And I'm just going to add some stripes maybe on my handle. So be creative with your little embellishments. And you can even see that color pencil go on top of that marker that we did. We can draw some raindrops on here. All right. So the last thing we need to do is we could take our Sharpie in. We need to sign our artwork. So make sure you guys remember to always sign your completed artworks. So I'm just going to sign it right down here at the bottom. All right. Well, there you go, artists. Renoir's umbrella artwork featuring tints and shades of blue. So this is all just blue and black and white. But you can see it's a very different shades and tints of the color. Thank you so much, artists. I look forward to seeing your artwork.